So you've got a board. It's rough sawn, it's wavy, it's out of square, and you don't have an aircraft carrier to joint it on, and you don't have a jointer plane. How in the world do you do it with just a simple bench plane? Let's dive in and take a look at this really simple work. So I've got this rough sawn board, and it is the edge of it is atrocious, and there's a lot of inclusions and weird things I've got to do on it. It is not straight. It is not square. It needs a lot of work. If I had a power tool shop, I'd run over to my well-tuned aircraft carrier, I'd set the board on there and go, and it'd be jointed. That'd be really nice. It'd be very easy. But unfortunately, I'm an all-hand tool shop. In my shop, I'd probably reach for my trusty number 8, number 7, some big plane. And the nice thing about this is it will sit on the mountaintop here, and it will sit on the mountaintop here, and the blade in the middle isn't cutting anything because this valley is resting between the two mountaintops. So this will only hit the high spots. It's exactly what you want to do when you're jointing a board. But let's be honest, not everyone's got these, and the price on them is going up. The good thing is, you don't need this. You can do all of that with the simple number 4. It actually does the exact same work, it just doesn't tell you when it's flat. You see, just as the jointer is long enough to touch the high spot here and touch the high spot here and not hit anything in the middle, well, the number 4 is not, and it will still take a shaving from here in the middle where it is low. So this won't flatten the board by itself. I need to know what true flat is so that I can just hit the high spots. And for that, I usually use a straight edge. And the next question is then, how do you make a straight edge? Well, then you use a straight edge to check that the straight edge is straight. Okay, we need something better than that. When I made this straight edge, all I did was I got a big piece of paper, laid it down, drew a line on the edge, and then flipped it over and drew another line right beside it. And if those two lines were perfectly parallel or right on top of each other, then this edge is straight. If they're not, then it shows you where the high spots are and the low spots are. You come in and plane that and you check it again. It's a very tedious process, but you can make your own straight edge without another straight edge. But if you've already got a straight edge to make the straight edge, then why do you need to make a straight edge? So we're just going to use this. So first, I need to learn about the board. I'm going to put this on here, and I see that I'm touching right here at this end. And if I slide over here, I'm just touching at this very end, and I'm not touching anything in the middle. That lets me know that this end and this end, I've got to shave those down and make those lower. I don't want to touch anything between here and here. This middle area, I don't need to touch that yet. I'm just going to hit the high spots. You're going to hear me say this over and over and over again in this video. Just hit the high spots. Don't plane the entire board. Just hit the high spots. Grab my number 4 with a fairly heavy cut, and I'm just going to do several passes here. I'm not worrying about being square yet. In each pass I'm taking a little longer. I've hit about this area here. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other end. I'm just hitting the high spot. And now that I've hit this edge here and the other edge, I can put the straight edge back on there and see, oh, look at that. Now I've got a belly. Now it's actually rocking right here. So this is my high spot right here. I'm just going to hit that high spot. Now my high spot is over here, which is exactly where I want it. I've done from here to here. Now my high spot is right here. So I need to extend this out a little farther. I've now planed up to about here, and I know this area is fairly true. If I just put the straight edge here, it's actually really nice and flat. It's very, very close to what I'd want. It's touching from here to here all the way along. But now I'm going to extend this over, and oh, I've got a high spot here. Now I've got a bit of a gap in the middle here, so I got a high spot here. And if I extend it out even farther, I can tell this end actually drops off a little bit. So I don't want to hit this very last little bit. I want to hit this little high spot here and see where we're at. So now we addressed that to there, and we are good and flat all the way along there. Not absolutely perfect, but I'm taking a heavy shaving. We're going to be cleaning that up a little more. I know that this front edge here is decently flat all the way along the board. But as you can see, I didn't touch anything here, and I didn't touch anything over here because my board is not square to the side. For that, I need to bring in a square, and I can see I've got a big gap over here. But it's not too bad. We just need to square it to the side as well as it being flat. Now, how do you square without a square? Well, you get a square. And how do you square a square without a square? Well, it's basically the exact same thing as the straight edge. you just do it with a square. And it actually works really well. I know that my board is straight, but now I want to square it out. And if I only hit the spots that I need to work, well, then I'm going to take it out of being straight again. So from this point on, I want to take shavings from one end all the way to the other every time until I get that nice clean surface and I'm square all the way along it. And this is the tricky part, because this is where you need to learn a little body mechanics and some skill to go along with it. So let's take a look at some of the problems you'll run into. On the starting end of the board, there's a tendency to grab it fairly heavy back here. And when you do that, you're going to be lifting up the plane, and it's going to be going uphill, and you're going to be taking off extra shavings here. And we don't want that. We actually want to put downforce here on the nose. We want all of our weight on the beginning down here. This hand is just pushing forward. This back hand is just for forward movement. You shouldn't have any down pressure back here. All the down pressure should be up here. Until we're established, then we can take it off and we can continue on. But make sure when you're starting, you always have the down pressure here. On the other end of the board, it's the exact opposite. There's a tendency to be putting down pressure on the knob, so when you come over, you're going to be rounding the end of the board, and you'll notice that eventually the last 4 inches tend to slope down, and then on the other end of the board, the first 4 inches will slope down. So when you come out here, once you get close to the end, almost take your hand off of this. This just needs forward momentum, and all of your down pressure should be back here on the tote. So when you're planing forward, you can do it with basically just one hand. The other hand is just there to guide and protect. Just like that. So let's put it all together. We're going to start here with all of the down pressure on the front. Keep going until we're established. Now I can put down pressure on both sides. Continue on through. Once I get here to the other side, I'm going to take off the down pressure on the knob and just have the down pressure back here in my hand and run right off the board. I have a nice true line all the way along this, and I've been taking an even shaving all the way along this. And I can check it again occasionally just to make sure that yes indeed, I'm still flat. So now we need to square it up. And I'm going to set the square on here and bring it down. And I'm touching most of the way across, but I still have a gap here on this side. And I want to keep going until that gap is clean off the way. One of the things you may notice is that eventually you may find that you're skewing one way or skewing the other way. And you may have a straight edge, but your plane is leaning one way or the other. The most common culprit for beginners is that it's sticking out more on one side or the other. So you're taking a heavier shaving on this side than you're taking that side. The way you fix that is with the lateral adjuster. Just shift it side to side and you'll be getting an even shaving all the way across this. The next most common I see is that the plane isn't centered on the board. If you're planing over here to the side, you're going to have a lot of weight on that side and it's going to tend to lean. Same thing if you go this way, it's going to tend to lean. And so you tend to take off a heavier shaver one way or the other. You want to keep it in the middle of the board. Now the nice thing is, if you are out of square one way or the other, you can use that to fix it. Put it on this side and you're going to take off more material over here. Put it on this side, you're going to take off more material over here. And you can use that to fix something that's out of square. Next up is the way you hold the plane. You shouldn't be grabbing the knob. There should be really no reason to be holding the knob. That's not going to do much for you. You want one finger used as a fence to slide along the board, and then pinch the toe up here. That will give you a fence to allow you to adjust that side-to-side placement. It also allows you to put down pressure at some points and alleviate the pressure when you're coming close to the end of the board. So when I'm planing, I'm almost always holding it here, using my finger as a fence. One of the really cool things about putting your finger there is that eventually your finger learns what square is. And you'll joint the board and you'll check it and you'll be like, wow, I'm square. Just because you know what it feels like, and you can feel a degree or so out one way or the other just because you've done it. Now the downside is the only way to teach your finger what square is to do it over and over and over and over again. And in most cases, it's a year or two of jointing occasionally to learn what it feels like. It's a skill. It's not something you can learn on a video. It's something you've just got to feel and do, and eventually you'll get it. But once you do, it's really nice. So I've gotten this all square except for one little section here, so I only need like 2 or 3 more shavings from end to end. I'm gonna come back in here, take one, after 3 more shavings, we can come back in, check, and see We are really, really square. I like that. Now, are we still flat? That's the big question. And yeah, we're flat. I like it. For 99% of the woodworking and jointing, that's all you're going to need to do. Now, if you're going to be jointing this board up to another one, you can make them both flat and square and then put them together and they will work. Or at least it should work, but as when reality strikes, it doesn't always. If I want to take two boards and joint them like that, now most of the time I can do that method and it works really well and I can squeeze out any gap I might get, but sometimes I want to make it even better and I want to make that seam absolutely perfect and I don't want to squeeze out anything. In that case, I'm going to take the two boards I want to join like this, I'm going to take the top one and I'm going to let it fall over and flip so that the two mating edges are alongside each other. I'm going to do everything I just did on the main jointing board, except for I'm going to clamp these two together and I'm going to plane them together. This way, if I'm out of square one way or the other, it really doesn't make any difference because this angle is the same as this angle, and when I bring them back together, they mate and I get a perfectly flat edge. So even when I have a perfectly set up aircraft carrier jointer, I'm still going to put the two of them together and run them together in case there's any small discrepancy. Because reality will always trump measurement. Measurement always has a small amount of imperfection. There's never a way to get this absolutely perfect. But reality, well, it's reality. So that I can trust. Now the nice thing about a jointer plane over number 4 is I just need to make sure that I'm square and it will tell me if I am flat. I'll get a nice clean shaving from one end to the other and it's good to go. I can bring this in, check if I'm square, and that's all I need to do. So this is much, much simpler, but you don't need it. You can do it with something much smaller. Just takes a little more work and you have to have something else to tell you if it's straight. I do have several other videos on how to joint a board if you want to see that, because there isn't just one way to do it. There are hundreds of ways of skinning a cat, and I rather enjoy skinning cats. Try something different, try something that fits for you, and you might be surprised with what you get. Also, there's lots of other channels out there that show other ways on top of that. Particularly, I'd say go take a look at Rex Kruger's video. He has a really well done one on that. I'll leave a link to that down below. Jointing a board freehand with a small plane is one of those tasks that is relatively simple, but it takes a little bit of skill. It takes a little bit of patience, and it takes a bit to learn what the body mechanics are and how to make that function. But once you get that down, it's one of those skills that carries over into a lot of other things in woodworking. So this is a great way to learn a simple skill that will improve the rest of what you do. Now, as with anything in woodworking, there are hundreds of other ways to do it. I'd love to hear what way you use. Let me know that down in the comments down below. And if you do want to help out, click like, share, subscribe. Honestly, those things really help us out, and thank you for that. That means a lot. If you want to take it one step farther, you could join everyone scrolling over here on the side. Those are the patrons on Patreon. They are the ones quite literally keeping the lights on in the shop and keeping this channel going. If you'd like to find out more about that, there's a link to Patreon down below, or you can click the little join button and become a member here on YouTube. We do have special perks that we do for members and patrons just to say thank you and thanks. Honestly, without you guys, this channel wouldn't be here. So I think that'll do it for now. And until next time, have a wonderful day. Honestly, no joke, one of the top search terms for my channel is how to roll a joint. Did I say roll a joint anywhere in this video? Oh, stink, I just did.